We are on the best path to experiencing the wildest NBA trade deadline in the history of the league. After the most shocking trade in NBA history went through 2 days ago, which I still haven't been able to fully digest, yesterday continued lively. The Fox trade to the San Antonio Spurs is significantly less surprising and far from incredible, but still a wild move that will have major impacts on the NBA. Already in the past few days, this was somewhat indicated. Fox made it clear to the Kings that he did not intend to sign a contract negotiation before this summer. A little later, he officially requested the trade, and then he and his camp made it absolutely clear to everyone that he only wants to go to one team, namely the San Antonio Spurs. These, on the other hand, have been searching for a number 2 behind Victor Wembanyama for quite some time, ideally with no problems. Many expected such a move before this year's trade deadline. However, that it became a blockbuster 3-team trade was not necessarily predictable, because De'Aaron Fox is not the only party in this trade, because Zach LaVine is the other one. He's moving from Chicago to Sacramento. But starting from the beginning, as Shams reported first as always, the Spurs received Fox and Jordan McLaughlin, while the Kings received Zach LaVine, Sidney Kosoko, 3 future first-round and 3 future second-round picks. Finally, regarding the Bulls, they received Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and a future first-round pick. But let's go through this trend. Let's go through the trade for all involved teams, and of course, we'll start with the San Antonio Spurs. Regarding Fox's athletic fit, we must first commend them for making such a move so quickly, instead of waiting and standing still. And I have to praise them for not trading Stephen Kays, but keeping Devin Wiss himself, as well as Jeremy Sohan and Kel Johnson. Fox is an outstanding player, and it's not a given that you get someone like him without giving up your own key players. However, what it cost the Spurs were 4 first-round picks. 3 of them go to Sacramento and 1 to Chicago. Although, of course, this needs to be somewhat relativized because the first pick they sent is a lottery-protected first pick from the Hornets in 2025, and if that doesn't convert, it becomes 2 future second-round picks in 2026 and 2027. If the Hornets don't fully improve in the second half, this pick will enter the lottery. Likely, the Spurs haven't sacrificed any significant first-round pick yet, except their own 2027 first-round selection. Bem will then be 23 and possibly already in the MVP conversation, so currently it seems unlikely that this is a lottery pick. Of course, you can also find good talent towards the end of the first round, but that also needs to be somewhat relativized. The Wolves are incredibly interesting. You never know what will happen until then. 3 were sent to Sacramento, and Chicago is reclaiming their first-round pick next summer. In my view, these 4 picks plus 2 role players are not a costly return for Fox. You could say it's hardly a return. Wemby is already so good that the Spurs must consider him, desiring, for example, the Wolves' 2031 pick. For them, these picks aren't as valuable as acquiring players that fit with Wemby. They have now secured exactly such a person, a point guard alongside Wemby. I believe the 2 will come together, perform exceptionally well, and be 100% perfect. The fit, in my eyes, is not, both regarding Fox's quality and playing style, but nevertheless, in my eyes, it was an absolute no-brainer for San Antonio. Sure, players like Young or Ball would fit better with Wemby's skills, are better shooters, but among the realistic candidates, Fox is by far the best. After all, we're talking about a 27-year-old player who can and will form a powerful offensive duo with Wemby for years, assuming he's, of course, extended in San Antonio, but we can, I think, account for that now. The 2 can run a deadly pick and roll or a pick and pop. Wemby gets his elite perimeter creator alongside, a player who can operate further on the offense and consistently put the big man in the spotlight. Both will often benefit from it, and it wouldn't surprise me if Fox plays his best ball alongside Wembanyama. Long term, they prefer a top 20 player alongside Wemby on the Spurs, and I don't think Fox will reach that level. However, the advantages significantly outweigh any doubts. The pick was the best available, fits the timeline, and didn't cost much. What more could you ask for? The Spurs can now. Maybe they can reach the playoffs this season and have positioned themselves for the challenges of the next few years. They still have plenty of picks for the future. They have kept their trade pieces, allowing them to further improve this roster, losing little in future flexibility. They still have 6 of their next 7 owned first-rounders, 2 unprotected from the Hawks, and have loads of swap rights, including ironically the 2021 Hornets swap with the Kings, which they somehow managed not to get back in this deal. Really, a really great move from them. Truly, high praise. This brings us to the recently mentioned Sacramento Kings, and to be honest, I'm somewhat conflicted because on one hand they've been put in a very unpleasant situation where their franchise player is demanding a trade and says he will not extend. So they had to more or less give him up now. Given these circumstances, they relatively netted a great win-now player in Lewin and 3 future first-rounders, but as I mentioned earlier, they aren't as valuable as one might think. The Charlotte pick is lottery protected. The Spurs' own could be at the end of the first round, and the Wolves' 2031 pick is still far away. Considering how many crazy picks the Spurs still have, couldn't the Kings have gotten a bit more out? Or maybe at least get one of the young players? Why not at least their own pick swap, the one they gave to San Antonio back in the Harrison Barnes deal? Getting another unprotected pick from the Spurs in this swap would, in my eyes, have also been doable. For them, it's extremely frustrating that they chose 3 for Fox over Halliburton, and now neither are part of the organization anymore. And now they're somewhere in no man's land with players like Sabonis, LaVine, DeRozan, and tomorrow they might be good, but not good enough to be a real contender. The direction of this franchise isn't really clear, and if you trade away your own franchise player, you should at least position yourself as well as possible for the future. So if I give the Spurs a 1 for this deal, then the Kings would get a 3, maybe a 3+. Hard to say. I'd be interested in your opinion. Let's conclude with the Chicago Bulls, who are closing the Zach LaVine chapter after all these years. Who would have thought? Maybe someday it'll change. But here, too, you can look at it from 2 perspectives. If you say that they got something of value for a superstar time player, then you can spin it nicely. On the other hand, you can also see it as they got just 2 role players and a pick for a player who has played exceptionally well this season so far. I mean, good for them that they got their own first-round pick back this summer. Now, they can relax. But part of me wonders if maybe more should have been included. You are the big winner of this trade. I see both pros and cons for the other 2. I'm glad you and your new team will join our March LA community trip, which is already full. However, our New York Christmas trip in December 2025 still has available spots. After briefly discussing it in my Luka trade video, a few new signups joined at the end. Very nice. Thank you. I'd love for more people to join. All info is in the links section to reserve your spot, found in the video description and pinned comment. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Take care.